So how is it so far? What have you seen? What have you seen so far?
We saw an amazing picture this morning.
Isn't that amazing?
That was incredible.
It's awesome.
Right after the picture, we will be saying a Kapitel Tillim by the Shluchim from Pittsburgh, the Zeichen Nishmas, the Kedoshim that were killed last week. So please remain in your places until after the Tillim is said.
How did it feel standing? What's the energy that's over? I mean, it felt amazing from our side of the street.
Just the togetherness.
What was said about Pittsburgh? I heard there was something said about Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I see there are about 9, what do we say, 9 shluchim?
Yeah.
There are about 9 Chabad rabbis in Pittsburgh. And they didn't come in for the weekend because they stayed with their congregations. So they flew in this morning. So they gave them a special welcome, and they said the psalm, they read the psalm, and they sang the song. And so Pittsburgh has really shaken the country. Isn't that amazing? I mean, it's not the biggest tragedy in American history. But the reaction is so positive.
Also in London as well. It shook everybody in our country.
It's disproportionate. You didn't expect such a reaction. My son came in from Alabama. So at the airport in Alabama, the luggage handler said to him, "Really sorry about the tragedy." And then he arrives here at LaGuardia, and getting off the plane, the guy there says, "Sorry about you." Everywhere.
Apart from your president.
Huh?
Apart from your president. He doesn't
My
seem to be able
president.
to say the right thing.
You have to say the president. 'Cause he doesn't. Anyway.
Don't blame him on me. But the reaction is fantastic. And yet you see these headlines. Anti-Semitism growing in America. No, it's not. That's so not true. It's amazing. Really. Beautiful, beautiful reaction. My son in Minnesota got a little note in his mailbox from his Arab neighbor, Muslim neighbor, saying, we're terribly sorry and we're behind you. And everywhere. So, what are you? Why are you here? What are you doing here?
You guys know why we're here.
What are you?
We're here to sort of explore different parts of Jewish culture, see something that we can't exactly see back home.
Right. That's true. So what is this, a class? A school?
Yeah.
No, you can tell them who we are. What's going on?
Who are we?
We are the Temple Emanuel Youth Group, and we're all from congregation, and we kind of do fun trips, and we like to explore Jewish culture.
It's good.
It's a bad
It's
habit,
not my
but
congregation. It's all ours.
it's a bad habit, but you'll outgrow it. So, what would you like to know?
How much has this community changed over the years?
Could you expand on that answer?
I guess.
That's not the question.
0 plus 0 equals 0. Actually, let me give you a little bit of historic background. The movement began in Russia, in a little village called Lubavitch, which literally means village of love. Luba in Russian is love. about 250 years ago, a little more. What it was a new insight, a new philosophy about Judaism. And it spread through Russia like wildfire. And in a few years, half of Russia became Hasidic. Half the Jews in Russia.
That would have been something.
That would have been. The communists came and, it made it impossible to live there. And so it moved to Brooklyn in 1940. And the change that you're asking about was really very, very significant and beneficial, because coming from a shtetl mentality, living in ghettos, although it wasn't a ghetto. I don't know if Russia had ghettos, but certainly it was a small town and Jews lived in tight neighborhoods. To come to America and develop a cosmopolitan view of life, that was really a great benefit. It opened up everything. So the change was very dramatic. You can imagine, from the extreme smallness, it couldn't get any smaller, to this completely global aspirations of changing the world. It was an amazing transformation. So what changed simply was that instead of living internal, insular, it became a very outward directed philosophy. And that's why the community is so welcoming of guests. When you go, as far as I've heard, when you go touring in other places, they show you buildings. This is this and this is that. You don't go inside. Here, you go everywhere. You go into the scribe's place, you go into the matzah bakery, you go into whatever it is, because our whole purpose in existence is to be open and to share the philosophy and the joy of that philosophy with everybody. So was it last week we had Denmark, a huge group from Denmark. We had a group from Norway, from China. It's beautiful. Get some Jews too. So that's the big change in 2 generations. Went from being tiny village to being like what you saw, global. The message is a very simple one. The purpose of life, which everybody's looking for, right? Why are we here? What's the purpose of life? I didn't ask to be born. So why am I here? The only real answer to that question has got to come from whatever created us. Because if you say, what is the purpose of my existence? Who are you asking? You want to make one up? Yeah, I think this week my purpose will be to be a doctor. And then next week maybe I'll change my... That's not a purpose. That's just a plan. If you say, what is the purpose of our existence, you mean, was there a purpose before we existed? The purpose has to come before the fact. You don't build a car and then think what's it for. First you have a purpose, then you create. So in very practical terms, which goes beyond religion, if there's a purpose to life, it has to be the purpose that brought us to life. Got to find out what that is. Or maybe there isn't. Or maybe there's no purpose. But I can't make one up. And we can't have 100 different groups making up 100 different purposes. There'll never be peace that way. So we're very excited to share the message that the original being that caused all this does have a purpose. And that's good news. So when you feel like, I didn't ask to be born, why am I going through all this? You're right. We didn't ask to be born, and we didn't create ourselves. Well, where does that lead you? Either to nihilism, so I guess there is no purpose, or to a purposeful creator. See, everybody's talking about evolution versus intelligent design. That's not the issue. Evolution is also intelligent. It's very intelligent. That's not the issue. The question is, whatever started this process wanted something or didn't know what it was doing. That's the difference. So everybody agrees that there was a creator. Some call it a subatomic particle. But whatever you want to call it, did it make this happen or did it just happen? That's it. Tiny little difference. And it makes all the difference in the world. One chromosome makes all the difference in the world, right? So we've spent, as the Jewish people, we've spent about 3,300 years trying to nail down this purpose. We must know something by now. We haven't been wasting our time. So to share this with the world, I think, may be the key to peace on earth. Because this is beyond any particular religion, or religion in general. So religion has become a problem, as you may have noticed in the news. All the wars are religious. So somehow religion has become a negative. But what we're talking about here, and what we're celebrating here, is not the Jewish religion. We're celebrating the intentional creation of a purposeful creator who really cares about his creation. I don't know how that can not be appealing. So what is his intention? What does he want? Why did he do this? What do we do? What do we do for him? How is our existence meaningful or useful to him? This is an amazing subject. And it's the same Judaism as Moses. I mean, it's just a new insight into what it's all about. So we still say the same Shema, and we put the mezuzah on the door on the right side, the same old stuff, but with a whole new appreciation. And that's exciting, because if something 4,000 years old can become fresh again, we're onto something. That is really amazing. So one of the results of Pittsburgh, one of the reactions of people in Pittsburgh, put a mezuzah on your door. Jewish pride. So, whoa, that mezuzah goes back 4,000 years. And all of a sudden it's exciting? Isn't that amazing? Come on. See, the amazing thing is, there's a Chabad office or a Chabad center in the Congo. There's only one, right? And we wonder what they're doing there, but there's only one. Now you would expect, when you go into a culture, when you go into a environment, and you're the only one observing Shabbat, you're the only one keeping kosher, aren't you going to be influenced by the community, by the culture? And a couple of years from now, you won't be keeping so kosher because it's difficult to get the kosher food flown in from Israel. And maybe you won't be keeping Shabbat because there's no one to talk to. and the exact opposite happens. Come back 10 years later, and there's a community there. People keeping kosher and keeping Shabbat. So the question is, how does one person, one couple actually, or one family, where does this strength come from? To be out there all alone, and instead of being influenced, they are the influencers, if there's such a word. It's because the message is so true, I guess, so appealing, that in all of these places, if we were a little bit evangelical, if we were a little interested in converting people, whoa, we would be flooded. People are attracted. Actually, the Talmud says that one of the reasons we are in exile is not only because we blew it when we had the temple, but because we need to be everywhere in the world so that those who want to convert will find it easier to do so. Isn't that amazing? And we're not evangelical, right? And we're not interested in converting people. But for those who really want, we got to be there for them. So it's a very good question you're asking, because it goes against common sense. You would think one couple alone, come on, how long can they last? I get an interesting analogy. There's this guy who was very patriotic, American. And he always looked forward to visiting Washington. He finally gets there, and he is so proud. You know, the monuments and the statues and the library, he is just flying. And then a couple of blocks from the White House, he sees this strange building. It's not American architecture. And he hears singing coming from, and it's not American songs. And it's not American language. And the people dressed, not American costume, not American language. He gets very offended. He knocks on the door. This guy comes to the door, and he says to him, "How long have you been living here?" He says, 20 years. He says, 20 years you're enjoying all the benefits of America, and you can't sing American songs, and you can't speak English, and you can't dress like an American? How can you be so ungrateful? The guy says, "Excuse me, sir, this is the Norwegian embassy." And we are here to show you how Norwegians live. And if we dressed like you and sang your songs, we'd lose our job. See, the same thing is true with Jews. Wherever we are, we're like an embassy. We represent something. If we stop representing, we're out of a job. And so the world looks to us like a foreign embassy. Like, who are you? What do you stand for? What makes you the chosen people? How does it feel to be a chosen people? Why are you the chosen people?
May I just jump in with one thing?
Yeah, sure.
When I was trying to define for the kids, you guys had said, how do I define, what's the best word for shluchim? How do I define? Ambassador. An ambassador, that's the best translation, I think, if I dare say so, of what the shluchim are. I was like, messenger, emissary, But ambassadors plays with the embassy image.
And that's why the centers that we open are called Chabad House. It's the embassy house. But every Jew, we can't get away from it. People look at you, you're Jewish? Okay, I got a couple of questions. So how does it feel I was once asked that question. How does it feel to be the chosen people? By a church group. They didn't ask if we were chosen. They said, "You're chosen. How does it feel?" And you got to be able to answer the question. They say, "No, we're not chosen." Hey, we read the Bible, okay? Who are you trying to kid? So, and then when we give the answer, it's universal. God created the whole world, not just Jewish people. So it's been the 50 years that I've been traveling and speaking and talking, and every kind of group, every kind of... It's just... You know, when you can say the same thing to a very diverse, and it's meaningful to all of them, come on. That is fantastic.
My name is Kai. I think you've already answered my major question earlier.
Yeah, you got this started, didn't you?
I don't have any other questions. I don't, right now at least.
What was the question?
The question is, how much has this community changed, like, in general, like across a long period of time? But I'm just sort of interested in this because I want to definitely see like the differences and the similarities between like Orthodox Judaism and Reform Judaism.
Okay, here's the answer to the question. We are not Reform Judaism, we are not Conservative Judaism, we are not Reconstructionist Judaism, and we are not Orthodox Judaism. We are not religious. Blank look.
I'm not quite sure I understand your answer.
It may very well be that you are more religious than me. Because Judaism was never meant to be a religion. And it shouldn't be. When other religions developed out of Judaism, now all of a sudden people say, so what are you? I say, well, I'm Jewish. Oh, so Judaism. No. It's not a religion. But the language, we're stuck with that word. One example for it. Most religions, or maybe even the word religion, has come to mean some path towards a spiritual goal. Whether it's Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, you act a certain way in order to get a spiritual benefit. Usually after you die. You can't argue with that, right? I don't know. Judaism is God trying to get to earth, not humans trying to get to heaven. Any kind of heaven. Because, again, it's not about us. I didn't ask to be born. I don't need this, by the way. I don't need any of this. So we're really existing for a purpose. It's not like we exist and we found a purpose. No, our whole existence is unnecessary without that purpose. Which, by the way, is psychologically very healthy. What, me worry? Remember that? Alfred E. Newman? Yeah. What, me worry? What? I don't need any of this. This is not my problem. The problems I have were given to me. I didn't ask for it. If I designed myself, I would have been very different. But this is the plan. This is my purpose. This is why I'm here.
Isn't that just an easy way out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, you can just, it seems like a lazy way in a way.
It could very well be. Well, all religion could be easy, right? Least of all Judaism with 613 mitzvahs. That doesn't sound too lazy. Just memorizing them can take a long time. So what it does is, on the one hand, it makes my burdens less significant, but my purpose or service more significant. So instead of worrying about myself and being needy, I thrive on being needed. Psychologically, that is very healthy. And very often people come for, with severe depressions, and the psychologist will say, or the psychiatrist will say, there are people much worse off than you who really need help. Go help them. Stop wallowing. And it's so therapeutic. It's really...
So, about keeping all the mitzvot you can. You're presenting one, do it. how do you take the conflicting pieces like stone those who don't believe in the Word of God and also accept others? How do you...
What did you say, stone people?
Like, I'm not sure which book of the Torah, you're supposed to not cast out, but sort of separate those who don't believe what you believe, but you're also supposed to accept people. How do you find a healthy medium?
You've been thinking. Let's generalize the question. We want to create goodness in the world. What do you do with bad people? Very, very basic question. You can't make believe everybody's good when you have people shooting people. So what do you do with bad people? Right? So there are, I guess, two ways to approach it. One is, how angry do you get at people who are bad? And what do you want to do to them? The other is, what does God want me to do with it? It's not personal. When you make it less personal, it's much better. Because revenge is forbidden. Pointless hatred is forbidden. So if somebody is misbehaving, ask God what He wants. Don't ask me, because I'll overreact every time. So better to let God decide. Now, in the time of the temple, when Jews were the government, there were commandments concerning how to govern. Part of governing was that there's a death penalty for certain crimes. And maybe there should be here too, but it's a little hard to implement, because human beings can make mistakes. But there's no question that some people deserve to die. In fact, some people beg to be killed because they feel so guilty. But the chance of killing the wrong person is a little scary. So the Torah says, God says, for certain sins you deserve to die. How you go about that is very complicated, and so you take the more lenient approach. If you're not absolutely sure and you don't have two eyewitnesses who were there at the time and so on and so on and so on, then you can't do it. So what do we do with bad people? Today, we don't have a government. We don't have the authority. Even in Israel, public opinion, world opinion is very important. So we don't have the authority to do whatever we think we should do. But also, in the times of the temple, when Jews were living in a comfortable country of their own, with prophets inspiring them, with the temple inspiring them, if you couldn't behave yourself under those circumstances, maybe you need some punishment. But today, realistically speaking, can you blame anybody today? What do we know? What have we seen? You say to somebody, that's not kosher. What does kosher mean? Nobody knows. You say, no, that's really unholy. Unholy? What is holy? We don't know. We think we might know. Most people. So we haven't really seen. We've been displaced for way too long. Tradition keeps getting interrupted every time we get comfortable in a country. We've got to leave and pick up again and start all over. So today, nobody deserves punishment. Discipline, maybe. Not maybe. We definitely need some more discipline. But punishment like stoning, nobody deserves it today. Because we're too far removed from Mount Sinai. Isn't that an amazing thing, by the way? When is the last time God spoke to you? That's what I thought. God spoke to us once. That's it. At Mount Sinai. He said, here's what I need you to do. And that's it. Hasn't talked to us in 3,000 years. And we're still Jewish. If that isn't a miracle. But the longer we go, the less we really understand. And yet we're trying to be Jews. So I think we are the miracle of miracles. And others have said that. You want proof that there's a God? There are Jews. If that's not a miracle, what is, right? So the punishments in the Torah are meant for a time when people should know better. But today, how should we know? So it's not that the punishments are canceled, it's that we don't deserve it. If we deserved it, that would be the punishment. In fact, if you think about it, not only don't we deserve punishment, we deserve a lot of reward just for staying Jewish. If a Jewish mother tells her children, we are Jews, that's a hero. Why? Why are you doing that? What makes you do that? Remember the story with Daniel Pearl? He was massacred. He was killed by the terrorists, and his last words were, my father's Jewish, my mother's Jewish, and I'm a Jew. Why did he say that? What moved him to say that? They were killing him because he was a Jew. He said, that's right, I am a Jew. Come on, for that he deserves all the reward in the world. So I guess, and again, religion means you're trying to get something from God. Is that not correct? Judaism means we're trying to do something for God. And that's why, if you've never observed Shabbat, Shabbat is coming in a few days, observe it. Say, no, I don't do that. Well, do it. If it was about you, then it would make sense. I'm not into that, that's not me. Okay, fine, it makes sense. But if you have 10 minutes to spare, and God needs you to put on tefillin, and it takes you 10 minutes, do it. Say, well, I never did it before. Fine, so do it. If you're doing someone else a favor, then it doesn't matter whether you did this yesterday or you're going to do it again tomorrow. So if I ask you for a favor and you say, no, I never did that, I don't care. Can you do me a favor or not? So you see, there's so much more forgiveness in Judaism. Because it's not about you being perfect. We know you're not perfect. But who cares? If right now you can do something for God, that's Judaism. Will you do it again tomorrow? I'm not asking about tomorrow. I'm asking about now. So to serve God, literally, that's the punchline of Judaism. Serve Him. Don't ask Him to serve you. Give me heaven, give me this, give me that. Okay, enough already. What can you do for Him? So the event at Sinai was God telling us His needs. And said, can you commit yourself to taking care of me? I'll take care of you. But reciprocal? So in that sense, no religion. Not trying to get to heaven. Don't want to go to heaven. Just want to stay here. So if you ever hear the expression when somebody dies and they say he's in a better place, no. There is no better place. There's an easier place. There, He takes care of you. We don't like that. That's a retirement home. We'd rather stay here and keep working. So this is the best place. And anybody who starts with the better place, Yeah, potential terrorist. You don't like this world? That's not good. So, in that sense, the three major religions. No, we're not a religion. We're trying to bring God to earth, which means make the world godly. We're not trying to get to heaven. We don't want rewards from heaven. That is not a religion. That's just the purpose of creation. Purpose of creation is not religion. And that's why it's for everybody.